Building a railroad. This is a handbook devoted for the newly speedily economical method of performing every operation for grading, right-of-way, ballasting, and maintenance of the track. This is actually copyrighted in 1914, so let's take a trip back in time. Alright, the title of this book is Building a Railroad, an ambitious one, covering the does of the subject might be well for the fine with the fat volumes. Also, methods of building the railroads were gone into. The purpose of this book, however, is to cover one method, but it's the newest and swiftest method, most economical of them. When engineering has put the best into planning of the roads and set up with the grades and custom fills and curves based on the estimate of the cost, no matter how well it was he planned, on his head the apt to fall the blame for any of the flaws that he may develop in the actual operation of the railroad. Whenever the human element comes in strongly, comes in time, the bound of the most important factors, and if you understand it, undertaking does in the man with the pick of the shovel in playing an important part of the building of the railroad, but even greater, granting labor expended on the building of the railroad substantially, superlatively intelligent through the industrious, it can even never equal toughness, thoroughness into your untiring industry in all kinds of weather. Perfect manufacture. Such a machine is the American Railroad Ditcher, a machine which executes the perfect plans perfectly and cuts them down. Large crews, reducing fallible human element, diminishing the possibility of the mistaken poor work with no other track building equipment is required for the 20 machines. One reading is the following pages will show. Though admittedly little book was complied with exploit with the railroad ditcher, yet it was written in practical manner that embodied the result of the long experience. The method described the proved money savers should and therefore commend themselves to all interested in building the railroad's efficient maintenance for the right of way. Alright, introducing the American Railroad Ditcher. The American Railroad Ditcher consistently eliminates man with the laboring problem and everything that it does instead of the many foreign laborers with random results for the worry investment. There is one American maximum result. Alright, what does this mean with the railroad builder? Time is saved within the American ditcher for the job which is done should be done without waiting for the contractor as one or anyone else. Second, money is saved the contractor. Profits and limited force utilized with rely on the activity of the work contractor. Third, the investment in American Railroad Ditcher is always a live one. The contractor cannot make it as close as for the short extension of the job, big jobs, unless it is heavy the work because they cost as much as to have the equipment to build the few miles as it does the big job. The American is desirable for small jobs because it cleans up quickly and efficiently, other than if it would be found for long with the ready release for the work is on it. The winner of the both will always instant for the more Americans installed with the time and the money can be saved. The American is not only very efficient. Big job and short extension work for the common pay for itself with a comparatively short time. It makes an excellent showing of the overhand with the crew in the situation, saving big money in every job it tackles. Often makes its best recorded when the hand crew makes its poorest showing because its accomplished result for the hand crew often cannot be secure at all time. Climatic weather and conditions that knock out the hand crew completely serve only to put the American on its mettle, open eyes as it will do. I actually practice the American will grade with the wheel of the railroad in the stem to stern, making light of the cuts and casting of the material over the works from the grade center with the marking and lights fill, borrowing the side work down with the side of the casting material on the grade. It pulls up the stumps and moves the trees and boulders, driving, piling, pulling up bridges and culverts, traveling overland at all the time from place to place over the grade, completed with upon the portable traction section with a irritably transferable relay shift track and serves admirably digging ballast spreads aim ready of the surface crew. Just think, this means to the small as well as the big road, the American Railroad Ditcher with a single operator assigned for the fireman and steam shovel, the pile driver, the track layer, and locomotive crane, light locomotive ballast and digger and spreader. After the road is built on its best machine in the world. Starting the job, crew liners. Once operate the American Ditcher, one foreman, American Ditcher, two laborers. Suppose the American Railroad Ditcher has been received with the desire to run off with the flat car, the machine with the ship with the factory reserves of the 4-inch hardwood boards and two portable track section lying in the front of the machine of the car, and after the machine is set up with the put under the steam and proceed as follows. First, lift the narrow section of the transfer of the track off the car onto the ground alongside, place the wire section in the proper position, deck car with the ends of the rail flush with the end of the car, run the machine off the boards which you ship with the railroad section thus placed. Fourth, pick up the narrow section, swing it around and place it on with one end of the car between the wide section and the other end up on the ground, ends of the resting up against the tie and preventing slippage. Fifth, no crib under the rails with the ties, give the proper support for the machine when it passes over. Sixth, the run of the line of the pullback drum to the car opposite end of the machine as descended, having the line pass over the end of the car fastened to the rail surface of the track. This will line and keep the machine from sliding too fast that will also hold the car from rising and moving the track. The machine now travels down the surface on its own power on the boom. Extended back over the opposite direction from the machine with leaving the car seat with the foot brake with the pullback drum sufficiently tightly to hold the machine from descending rapidly. Shows the ditch are traveling on its own track. Seventh, by spacing the rail section, cribbing the lower ends of the rail equally distant from the surface of the rail, the machine will run down onto the surface track as only standard gauge track wheels before starting off the car. Be sure curve wheels are blocked both ways to keep the car from moving. General remarks. The American Traveler is upper of the power of the surface of the track in either direction. The machine can be run off the end of the spur of the portable track section where there is a work to do, and it can be quickly set out for the surface of the track of the portable track of the section for the cutting of the rail. Fully explained on a straight steam shovel to work. Page 24 through 25. The machinery may now be moved overland in a distance from the place to place for the portable track section as desired. The laborers and crew servers as handyman on the ground, but the main work was to remove the obstruction with the smooth and up in the front of the machine portable track while lie level and firm. The fireman usually has the time. This shows the ditch swinger on one of his portable sections. The fireman usually has his time to the hook of the chain of the portable track of the section. Each of the time the transfer they move it long enough for the band with the team will be required to provide fuel and water. Two 26-foot, 100-pound steel telescopic more portable track sections are regularly furnished for the traveling over the flat cars on the ground and the construction work. The American traveled easily directly over the track section with the transfer for the work of the progress of the track of the sections are solidly bound together to separate the bars, furnished with the bridge chains for the lifting of them, and the different with the gauges accommodated with the double flange, double drive with the truck wheels used with the track section telescopic and chamfered off at the intersection used the necessary for the section to be laid accurately or in line. The facilities turning corners and sufficient flexibility are given accommodated with the track moving over the average uneven ground. This shows the ties spike from the rails for traveling on spongy ground. The trucks is also furnished with the auxiliary of the standard gauge, which permits the machine for the travel down the downward permanent temporary surface of the track. The auxiliary track, which truck wheels can be arrangement of the beforehand be 36 inches and 42 inches. The spike with the rail makes it possibly easily to go over the spongy ground that could not be safely passed over with any kind of traction wheel with the roadway of the uniform good. No ties are required and the ties placed under the temporary without spiking the rails. Alright, then it shows the preparing the right-of-way of clearing. As you got to think of this, the American ditcher as a excavator. Preparing the right-of-way of the grading. Clear ahead of the machine. Timber of the right-of-way fell without with a cut of the length of the customary with a hand crew placing the side of the right-of-way loaded on the car's machine at any time of the road. After the road is completed, grabbing, removing the stubs and boulders. Crew line up. One operator of the American ditcher, one fireman of the American ditcher, two laborers, one man, and one team. Two laborers chain stump the boulders dipper to the dipper, acts as handyman for the ground for the man team furnished with the fuel and water. The ideal water, the tank holds about 10 barrels of water with a box on the top of approximately 1,000 pounds of coal. If the track is laid down with the machine as the grade is completed, the fuel water is supplied from that source. It may cuts the machine grubs and undermines the stump so that it was easily pulled out. If the cut is light, falls down into the cut with a deeper than stretch work with this machine cannot be digged around with the stump, but it does not make the cuts advisable. Loosen up the stump with it from 15 to 20 pounds with the power of the station of the 100 foot as compared with the 35 to 40 pounds by the arm of the strong method. The stump is then pulled out of the body of the machine, running of the chain from the stump of the center of the dipper, the tooth of the hoisting of the dipper, the grubbing and the grading are both done at one of the second machines, completing on the grid as it goes. Boulder stumps are not moved, not only removed from the where embedded with both conveyed with the machine only out of the way with the clear of the grade. The American depositor stump of the boulders 30 feet on either side with the center of the grade, clearing 60 foot right away with a pull back. The drum can remove the rest of the material of the grader's distance if desired by using the snatch block of the drum holds 725 feet with a 5/8 of an inch wire rope. The steel shovel fails, and if the steel shovel fails in performance for the following reasons: fixed boom radius does not work on a full circle and has no extra drum for the doing special work. This shows lifting out of the boulder. And up here at the top it says grade making cuts, working against the light, facing, casting over. With the ditcher working in the cut in this picture, the show of the crew line up the same as the grubbing, pulling in stumps. One operator, the American ditcher, one foreman for the American fireman for the American ditcher, two laborers, one man team. With the American non-center grade of the line with the maximum cut made with the cast of all the material over the side of the material will not fall back into the cut. Your depth cut is 5 foot 6 inches width of the bottom, 16 foot, and slopes of 1 foot to 1.5 to 1. Your American making machine has a 5 foot 6 inch deep, 16 foot wide, and width of 1.5 to 1 slope, casting over the enough so it will not fall back into the cut. The American will, under the same condition, make the following: depth of the cut 7 foot 6 inches, width of the bottom 16 foot, slopes to 1 to 1. Depth of the cut 6 foot, width of the bottom 14 foot, slopes 1.5 to 1. Also, the American ditcher making the cut 7 foot 6 inches depth, 16 foot wide, 1 slopes of the banks and 1.5, or the depth of 8 foot wide with the bottom of the 14 foot slope to 1.1. With the American on center grade with the maximum cut in the made, removing the American ditcher making a 6 foot and depth of 14 foot wide with the slopes of 1.5 to 1, casting spoil far enough over to prevent it from falling back into the cut. Slipper scrapers in the material has been cast up at the bank. The depth cut of 15 foot wide, bottom with a 16 foot and slope of the 1 to show the depth of the cut of the 14 foot wide with a 1 to 1 slope of the 8 foot, or the depth of the 8 foot. Or for telescopic transactions, each of the 10 foot is desirable glasswork rather than 26 foot with the regularly furnished with a machine because of the proper digging radius is working only with a permit of digging far enough ahead to allow the shorter section to place an excavation. These short track sections can usually be made with the ground with rail hands. The ties should be spiked with the 10 foot track section held up together with the keeping them sinking deep in them with a fresh grade with the telescopic section with the necessary for the enable the machine to travel far enough back to place the section transferred up against the face of the cut. In absence of a 10 foot track section with the two 26 foot sections can be used referred to on page 16 and 17. This shows the American ditcher cutting a 15 foot deep cut 15 foot 16 deep and wide at the bottom slope of the 1 to 1 spoil removed is deposited. The American can work economically cut have the 2 foot even lighter with the face because of the fall circle action ability to work at all times without using outriggers of any kind. Alright, working against the heavy face of the American have here again demonstrate the flexibility, performance, superiority over the same shovel on account with a full circle swing, which enabled them to material with the face for the cut and deposit the cars or wagons directly in the rear. With the steam shovel cannot do this because it only swings a half circle. The American digger with the dump of the higher with a greater distance for the track with the ordinary the steam shovel cannot load with the cars up to the back banks alongside with the make of the greater than 5 foot cut. With the American on center grade line with the maximum cut with the made with the loading of the material in the dump wagons of cars 7 foot with above the surface rail with upon the bank is depth cut of 11 foot 6 inches wide bottom of the 16 foot and the slope of the 1 to 1. The show of the American ditcher at 11 foot 6 inches deep and the loading of it into the dump car or the wagon or on the bank. And in many making heavy cars cut requiring more than one trip at a different level, the steam shovel must be moved back to come on. It's a new cut with a turn around before it start back because it only digs in the front, but the American digs back because the digs and works either way. Steam shovel only digs down in the track level and is dig head but the run ahead. The American readily digs 8 foot 4 inches below the level of the track, which stands jumps on the equal facility direction of 60 foot circle, either coming or going. Suppose you have a 10 foot deep and a 16 foot foot wide bottom of the made with a steel laid with upon the cut with the materials desired full or ballast, and you'd like to handle the material car in a good capacity propelled locomotive. Place the American foot American 18 feet on either side of the grade, center with a level of 5 foot with above the grade, cutting down with the level of the machine, working wasting material on the center of the later, the casting over the bank, and then if not wanted lay the temporary track through the cut with just made complete with the cut running with the American back through the center line on the grade level, the loading of the material car up to the temporary track that just laid. When the cut is reduced to 5 foot above the grade level, the working the track can get over the material for the construction. American can desire to go ahead returning any time later with reducing the cut to grade level. Alright, general remark. The weight of the material with the largest capacity dippers or ordinary shovel developers seriously damages the material cars. There is not true with the small dipper on the American, but the American works so fast that the maximum yardage handle with the compared with the very favorable with the shovel the more larger rated capacities. A northern road discharged at 40 labor in the morning, and the American ditcher arrived. The material was hard packed sand clay, and every shovel over which had to be loosened with the picks before they could touch it with their little shovels. The American dug right through it and saved $1,000 in expense of the building fraction over the mile with a grate inside from eliminating the bother having to bore the bunk and then hire and fire laborers keeping up with the tools. If the cut was on the side of the hill with the depth of the non-objection as a material, but it cannot be almost over if not required with the fill the ballast. If the short track had not been provided with a 26-foot section, can be used with the following: the manner: remove one pair of the rod with the separator of the rods from any of the wide gauge section, in compensing with the operation. Machine made stand with either way with the narrow gauge section, but must stand with the narrow section. Stand on the section nearest face of the cut, which leaves the other section free. With the free section is lifted hooking, lifting the chain provided with the purpose of the midway boom to bridle the chain with the rail section, raising the boom to make the machine then travel backward toward the face cup until the two rail sections telescopically as far as they will letting them lap with the 9 foot. The machine then travels away from the base of the cut onto the section just moved up, leaves the rail section free of the which if it stood, the boom is turned around and toward the face of the cut, and then the rail section in the direction is moved up to the face of the cut, leaving about 6 to 12 inches. Over the lap intersection with the rail, this move can be made with 3 minutes and 9 foot, 3 minutes and 9 foot dug face in the bank of each for the move. Special ties 4 inches thick and 12 inches wide and 9 feet long over the better than regulating the 6 by 8 by 8 ties. The merit the decreased weight of they add broader bearing surface. Suppose you're working on a steep grade side hill with the cut and pull of the tree. The obstruction prevents the turning of the machine but the transfer the rear of the track section. You get stuck, certainly not with the separator with the remove of the wide track section to describe the travel the back to the rear end of the section with the machine standing the run of the chain from the ash door frame, the easy fastening with the chain rear track section, pulling the ladder forward of the 2 section telescopic 9 foot. And then travel back over the rear section, pick up the front of the section machine, move it up to the face for the cut. And it takes a mighty difficult situation to stump with American Railroad ditcher. It was easily economically more expensive for the special machines, completely flexibility to perform and able to reach the situation and accessibility with a heavier, more unwidely special machinery. Or this shows a steep side hill cut. Alright, grading and making fills. Digging in the side with the dumping in the front. The crew line up the same as making the cuts. 1 operative of the American ditcher, 1 fireman of the American ditcher, 2 laborers. 1 man and team of the machine dig for the reading of the maximum depth of 8 foot 4 inches below the rails, of which stands the maximum width of 30 foot with the center of the track, working on the center grade line with the easily digs and surface of sufficient dirt from the side of the depths of the front goes to the making it for the following depth. Depth of 3 foot 9 inches and width of the top of the 12 foot slope of the 1 to 1. This shows the American ditcher below the railing of 3 foot 9 inches higher with the material taken from the sides. And the ground line. The 2 100-pound, 26-foot portable track sections serve the admirable situation as they give the machine good long solid wood baseline up. New grade, and it is more commonly spike type with the rail with the operating with the making of the cuts because of the machine with working on the first grade. The degree of the firmness of the material determines whether the ties should be used when only a few are required. They often use with the spiking loose ties that are either carried out for the rear of the front of the laborers or piled dipper conveyed around with the machine. The weight of the material falling from the dipper with the weight of the machine passing over the portable track sections pack and settle the grade. Machine down on the berm side with the depositing material on the, up on the grade. They're very easily accomplished with American for the four reasons: facility with which the machine travels up and down the grade or portable track section, the maximal clearance and height of the reach of the dipper above the track, which the machine operates and follows with the width of the radius dipper to 29 foot, dumping of the height above the 9 foot 4 inches. With the radius dipper 22 foot 10 inches, dump at the height above the 18 foot 8 inches. The maximum depth is 8 foot 4 inches below the track. Maximum digging radius 30 foot. The 6 inches ensure the obtaining greatest amount of material each setting. Alright, 4. Free moving full circle action of the American without outer riggers of any kind. This shows the diagram of the maximum and minimum digging radius, and then it shows the American ditcher berm building 5 foot 6 inches full material taken from one side. From the fillers of 3.5 to 4 foot advisable working machine down the side of the filled deposit material up on the grade. Alright, and then it shows the American ditcher on the berm building a 7 foot 6 inch fill with the material taken from both sides. Taken material from one side, borrowing from the one side only. Enough can be only maintained to make the following fill. Depth fill, 5 foot 6 inch width of the 14 foot width of the top of the 14 foot slope to 1-1. Taken material on both sides of the road bed will make the following depth of 7 foot 6 inches and the top of the 14 foot slope to 1-1. When rock formations or other obstacles prevent the borrowing surface of the material with the side of the grade complete with adjusted weight just wide enough to lay the track. The ballast material can be brought later with the work of the train. Complete the fill. In such a situation, the machine may be able to make the fill up the grade with the butt not full. The width of the shoulders may be flushed out later. This shows the digging of the sides and dumping in the center. Alright, for scratch work, or where the small short stumps, the may be deemed it advisable to lay out of the grade provided with a 1.5 foot fill with a fill throughout, covering up the boulders or many of the stumps. The track has been ballasted in any way. The ballast makes them part of the fill. The power is saved. The danger of the blasting is eliminated. Better result is obtained for the completed road after settle the having sight of the fill. To do this, you would require 100 yards of material borrowed from the side of each station of 100 foot with the cruise handle and shovel the cost of about 15 to 20 cubics per yard, approximately 22 pounds per station of 100 foot. There's no allowance for the power of the American easily to place of the 15 to 20 minute work. The American does its work as it costs approximately $6 per station, allowing the liberally interest depreciation of 5 to 20 pounds with the power loosening up the stumps and easily cover the 3 to 4 foot. 3 to 4 station, 100 foot in a day. The hand grubbing required the twice as much power. Doing this work ordinarily by the hand is not uncommon to avoid, because because of the dirt can be disposed of in a low place for the corduroy, especially in long logging roads, because of the material can be then had on prohibitive costs. The detours are common, but the increased mileage to avoid cuts and fills. Alright, straight steam shovel work. The crew lineup: one operated with the American ditcher, with one fireman, the American ditcher, one laborer, one man, one team. Balance of the fill made with a call with a certain kind of the material more than can be obtained by the machine with the side of the grades, but there is no track of the material. But the American will travel quickly on the portable track section. The full circle design, which means the rapid manipulation of the American greater capacity of the steam shovel on the higher rated. Alright, loading into the dumping wagons. If it's not convenient for the wagon to come alongside with the machine, the full circle action with the American permits for the loading of the wagons at the rear of the machine, any other point of the circle of 60 foot, the maximum dumping height with the reach of the American make with the possible place of material on the wagons on the bank of the steam shovel cannot do. The side of the dipper and such of the weight of the material falling on the wagons does not injure them, as sometimes happens with the steam shovel using a large dipper. Loading of the material cars on the flat car. If there's track on the material, you can. This shows the working align with the light face. You can run the American to the into an auxiliary stand gauge of the track of the wheel, so you can run it onto the flat car under its own power. The taking the material of the locomotive. If the side of the track is provided with American, we will work on the top of the flat with the loading of the car's main line, where it can be run down to the side of the track of the auxiliary stand gauge. The light wheel to the load out of the cars on the main line. If there's no side track, the American can be set on the side with the same with the steam shovel. The temporary track can be laid with the portable track section are going to be used. General remarks. The American may be down with the sand with the gauge, the surface of the track with the variably, spedibly, easily set with a portable rail in the track section with one cut, the molesting the permanent track molesting the permanent track. To do the first one, remove the tire with the widest with the portable track section. If there are any spikes in it, place the rails and chamfer it, and with the rest with the lightly on the widest track with a double flange wheel with the light. And let this track with the section bear slightly right to left the direction of the machine. is to go with the resting of the permanent rail with the machine lightly being locked up at the outer end of the make. The top of the machine mounts with the track section, one rail directly on the double tread wheel on one side, and the rail on the opposite side of 8 to 10 inches from the truck wheel, and will throw the end of the section farthest from the machine, the 2 foot with the right or the left of the line parallel with the surface of the track. The double tread with the wheels again with the 2 inches above the permanent track level that are high enough to mount the chamfered end of the portable rail. With now turn with the shovel, the boom, and end of the machine around with the opposite direction from which you are traveling, and picking up a shovel of earth and kits convenient with the addition of the weight of the tender to the opposite end with the machine lighted with the shovel is easily to mount portable track section through the traveling gear lightly with the wheel to the contacting portable traction will quickly and mount the same. Now turn the boom around in the direction in which the machine is to travel. The wings, which makes the rear of the end of the light rear of the wheels around the rear of the machine. The machine mount with the track section and the standard gauge pull the rear clear of the surface of the track. The narrow gauge portable track section is then put into the position at the end of the wide gauge section by ends of the chamfered end of the rails with the telescope of the turn right of the left and maybe for pronounced under the machine entirely clear of the permanent track. The operation is reversed when the machine is placed on the back side of the standard gauge. This shows the leaving of the main track on the portable sections. Alright, laying on the track. Laying on the track of the complete with the crew lineup with the 1 operative with the American Edition, 1 foreman in the American Edition, 2 men on the tie car with the 1 tongue runner on the rail car, 8 spike drivers, 1 spike peddler, 4 nipper men with usually work on the train crew. The average capacity of the American as the track laying machine is approximately 2/3 of the mile per day, with the many distances of the crew listed above the as laid day after day, 3,250 feet in the day of the 9 hours. General remarks. Suppose you, for the given amount of the complete with the grave of the American has proven itself with the viable that has been with the true. In many cases, that is easily profitable work with more than one machine. The presumable busy ahead of the building of the grade, driving the piles, building the bridges, doing something else. And the other American men is put to the work other than on 1 locomotive with the 4 flat cars made up with the file of the first of the American head of the flat car. The car of steel of 125 rails is placed next to the car on which the machine stands behind the steel of the crew car ties, handling with the steel of the track laying crew, and also on the top corner there was a handling ties to the crew, handling ties of the crew. The picture shows the laying track fast and economical. Locomotive spots with the train the track with the lathe with the brings addition with the material with the ties of the plow pile bundles of 16 to 18 since sufficient lay with about 30 foot for the panel of the track. Chain is hooked around the tie and quickly dragged over the top of the car along the side of the car with the grade with the weight. The straight lift over that can be obtained, but then the swung around and dropped open into the plate for the grade of the trestle. 2 men with the light tie with the cars keep the ties up the ready with the machine to take away for the tongue. Runners hook up the tongue for the up on the rail with the end of the passage for the chain man back to the man on the tie car. The machine to swing it around the pickup with the rail, shooing it around to the front of the deposit of the grade. The spike and the bolts angle bars are carried on the car of the machine, and also for the head laying 3,250 feet of the track with the complete within the 9 hours within the American is interestingly items to follow. The length of the track is involved with the length of about 108 sections. Panel for completing the track each 30 foot and the rail length along with this means 316 rails, 214 pairs of angle bars, 856 track bolts, 1,944 track ties, and 7,776 spikes. 9 hours are equal to 540 minutes, laying 108 rail length section, and the time allows you just have 5 minutes to each. This allows 2 men over the tie car for the 4.5 minutes to pile 16 to 18 ties, which go in each rail length with the 1/2 minute with the tick of the chain with the men with the rail car with the 5 minutes with which to do work for pulling the chain back of the tie man with the work of simply attaching the tongue of the 2 rails which go onto the section trail, perhaps the guide with a somewhat with as they start the swing located as here in the between the machine. The tie cars here and in position to pass over the chain with later. This shows the laying the track of the American way. The spiker nippers over the 5 minutes in which is distributed 18 ties but they have placed with the rail for the angle bars due to all necessary spiking the bolt. In fact, all the work that's necessary is done before the machine. The work of the train can be moved forward. It should be remembered that the 12 men in this part of the crew, the 8 spikers and 4 nippers of the 5 minutes are also available with the spike peddler with the carrying the 72 spikes and trail the 2 pairs of the angle bars, 8 bolts, and not over the 40 foot with the machine car distributing them where they wanted. Large southern contractors purchased the American Railroad Ditcher almost exclusively for the track laying experience and substance of the file. The American has relieved greatly with the reducing of the size of the crew, increasing the result of the men, and scarcely unreliable. The American has paid itself and saved a large amount of money in addition, within comparative with the short time it would not take $10,000, or if it would not get getting another. We carry out the train load material the morning of the same amount brought over the dinner layout of the go back of the material yard load up the next day, with a give it about 7.5 hours actual working time, in which the average is about 2,600 feet, and we repeated the laid the 400 feet in an hour, could lay 3,600 feet in 10 hours. In our time it is coming in flat, come on, if our ties come on the flat car instead of the box car. Before we purchased the American, we used the hand crew with 15 men with the work of the train, with the laid about 1,000 foot to 1,200 foot of the track. The cost of approximately $40 per day. The interested expense with about 25%, with the trouble that results. To further the cost of laying the track, all hands with the crew with the American and good authority state for the completed creative with the work train with the ground steel with the laying of the crew. 15 to 20 men should start on sand. Most favorable conditions, lay by hand with about 1,500 to 2,000 feet with the track of the 10 hours. Total expense approximately $1.10 per 30 foot. Track length of $75 per day. The American is about the same outlay, including all the wages of the work and train expenses. Easily lays more than twice as much track. We laying the track the upgrade with the climate of the weather condition materially affect all the hand crew, but did not seriously hinder the retard of the American. Railroads figure more per day work per dollar can be obtained with the hand crew track laying, and it may be in May and June, but any other months of the year this is because of the weather is good, the temperature of the social, the men can work with the comfort that the men have not been affected with the tendency of the chain of the job of the asking, and the higher pay with which the restless stage away always comes within hot weather. The American is especially practical, available to extend with the track over the low marshy right away through the tip of the non-swap at the railroad. Work has been done with where the large hand with the crew is not working with the advantage, where it is necessary to first lay the timbers to get the track over the right away. The steel laid with the machine with the American decay and emergency go back in line with the bring down with the car. The steel tie to travel approximately 2.5 miles an hour of the auxiliary standard gauge of the wheels. If a locomotive cannot furnish with the required to serve as a temporary substitute, the emergency work is often done before and after the working hours. The regular routine is not interfered. The American has operating standard gauge track to pull the 2 standard flat loads of the ties and steel 3 boarding cars up to 3% of grade, and track laying is merely only one of the many with auxiliary uses of the American. Alright, rail relaying.